8 is News. It is a country where songs and signs of religious faith mingle with the scars of war and the desperation of poverty.
They live on the edge of survival, and they really don't know what their future is.
A place of natural beauty and ugly reality. A country far from Cleveland and so very different, yet on the lips of millions of peasants.
Cleveland's a household word here, without doubt.
A place for which Cleveland has shed blood and changed the course of history.
I know I'll never be the same again.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dick Russ, inviting you to stay with me for the next half hour as we explore that strange and faraway land that has forever become linked to Cleveland. That country is the Central American nation of El Salvador, the Savior. It is a country which betrayed that name, though, with a long and bloody civil war that killed tens of thousands of people, including 15 years ago tonight, Cleveland Catholic missionaries Jean Donovan and Ursuline sister Dorothy Kazel. Here at Ursuline College tonight, the 15th anniversary of the deaths of the martyrs from Cleveland is going to be remembered in a special ceremony. Both were doing what they felt called to do, volunteering for mission work. Dorothy Kazel, the Ursuline nun from Cleveland's East Side, a teacher at Beaumont High School until 1974 when she went to El Salvador. And Jean Donovan, a laywoman who moved to Cleveland in the mid-70s and was in El Salvador barely a year when she was killed at the age of 26. Cleveland missionaries, men and women from our churches and our neighborhoods and our parishes, have been in El Salvador for 30 years now. They didn't leave when Jean and Dorothy were killed, and they don't plan to leave now. For the next half hour, you'll see how you, as someone who lives in Northeast Ohio, has a stake in the future of the people of El Salvador. How today's dedicated missionaries, representing the best that Northeast Ohio has to offer, continue to minister to the spiritual and worldly needs of a grateful people. How the memory and legacy of Jean Donovan and Dorothy Kazel live on every day from Cleveland to Salvador in sacrifices of faith. In El Salvador, you don't have to look far to find signs of faith. Whether it's expressed in public or in the meek privacy of a humble home, believers are not afraid to proclaim their faith, especially in the company of the Catholic missionaries from Cleveland. But it was not always that way. There was a time when being active in the church in El Salvador could mean a death sentence.
A lot of people in this parish died because they were leaders in our church.
They died during El Salvador's 12-year civil war, when bloodthirsty death squads not only caught church workers in the crossfire.
It was just about a month after I came when we had the first major attack here, when they were bombing and they were machine gun fire and everything else.
But also took dead aim at both Salvadoran and Cleveland church leaders. The murders of Cleveland missionaries Jean Donovan and Sister Dorothy Kazel, along with Maryknoll nuns Ida Ford and Maura Clark, on December 2nd, 1980, by Salvadoran soldiers, 15 years ago tonight, stunned the world and focused its attention on the violence in El Salvador and on the work of the Cleveland mission team there. Those who were near on that terrible night still grieve the same 15 years later.
When they died, we were also frightened. Some of us were scared away from our work with the church for 6 months.
Obedia Magdalena de Garcia still clutches Dorothy Kazel's personal prayer book, which the Cleveland nun gave her just before she sacrificed her life for her faith. And all those whose lives were touched by the martyred missionaries cling fast to their memories.
When I came to El Salvador in March of 1980, I found two women in La Libertad, very happy women, serving and helping the people, helping the very, very poor. And there was always smiles on their faces, laughter in their hearts, songs on their lips. I saw them just a few hours before their death, and they were both so very, very happy.
The deaths of Jean Donovan and Dorothy Kazel would leave the remaining Cleveland missionaries with a critical decision to make, one that would determine the future of Cleveland's commitment to the suffering people of El Salvador.
The bishop gave us the option of staying home if we wanted to, of not going back, and even of the possibility of closing the mission. But none of the missionaries wanted to do that.
And so, soon after, a tearful Cleveland bid farewell to the daughters who had given their lives. The missionaries returned to a hungry, needy, war-torn El Salvador.
Why? Because no missionary wants to abandon the people when they most are needed. That's why they stayed on, and it's the greatest contribution I think the Cleveland mission team has made.
It's a beautiful thing. It's like a family has been established and is growing, and that whole relational thing, that whole heart thing that you can't really put into words. I think we need to stay here.
Sacrifices of Faith will continue in a moment.
Let's look at the Magnum Power Sales event one word at a time. Magnum, as in Magnum Engines, as in Dodge Ram, ranked most appealing pickup by J.D. Power & Associates. Power, overall the most powerful line of truck engines on the planet. Sales, save on 5.2 and 5.9 liter V8s, up to $670, or $500 on Cummins diesel. And event, it's the first time America's hottest pickups have ever been on sale like this. At America's Truck Stop, the new Dodge.
The perfect holiday begins with the perfect tree. A quality permanent tree by Santa's Own. Santa's Own Christmas trees are natural looking and easy to assemble. And because Santa's Own trees are built to last, they even come with a 10-year limited warranty. Permanent Christmas trees by Santa's Own. Because the perfect holiday begins with the perfect tree.
Santa's Own trees are available at all Lighthouse Pools locations.
All right, people, Blockbuster Video's got thousands of videos and holiday gifts for sale. Great gifts, many for under $10, even exclusive gift sets. What do we got?
Warehouse is full of these.
This year, give them entertainment and make it a blockbuster holiday. Something is terribly wrong with the children of Midwich. Christopher Reeve, Kirstie Alley, John Carpenter's Village of the Damned, from MCA Universal Home Video, rated R.
Christmas is a time of dreams. If someone you know is dreaming of a great love affair, may I humbly suggest tickets or gift certificates for the Phantom of the Opera. This Christmas, by Phantom by phone, 416-872-2222.
We now return to Sacrifices of Faith.
Life in the villages, the cantons of El Salvador, has remained much the same for generations. The food is still simple and not quite adequate. The country's main energy source is still firewood, borne on the backs of animals and children nearly 24 hours a day. The water usually carries some kind of disease, and the lack of sanitation is typically third world.
I call it church workers' paradise. It's wonderful.
Buenas tardes. Estamos con permiso.
It is that attitude of service and sacrifice in the midst of suffering that brought Cleveland missionaries from half a hemisphere away to this Central American country 30 years ago.
Before we came, they had Mass, usually for years it was once a year.
But today, a team of 10 Cleveland missionaries serves the spiritual and worldly needs of more than 150,000 people in 3 vast parishes, reaching the faithful in dozens of isolated villages as often as they can.
This is an area where we've never come to.
Nurturing the native Salvadoran church, undermanned and overwhelmed in a country teeming with people and poverty.
A parish I visited last Sunday has 200,000 people, and it's growing and has only 3 priests and need much in the area of priestly help.
Since Clevelanders began answering the call, their task has been daunting. But what could have been the greatest setback for the mission, the killings of Sister Dorothy Kazel and Jean Donovan, instead seemed to rededicate not only the Cleveland missionaries, but their Salvadoran helpers as well. Though it has been 15 years since they were murdered, the memory of the women now known as martyrs has not faded at all. In fact, the very place in which they paid the ultimate price for their faith has become a shrine, a place to which both Salvadorans and missionaries from Cleveland now come to renew their own faith and their own commitment.
It gives us the power, the motivation, and the force to preach the gospel, especially to the poor and the marginalized, as the sisters did.
De sacarlo de esa ignorancia.
We've learned from Sister Dorothy and Jean and all the other missionaries who came and died that defending human rights and speaking out to those issues is part and parcel of the gospel.
From this memorial chapel on an isolated hilltop to this makeshift classroom where peasants learn to read and write, Salvadorans themselves are becoming more and more involved in ministering in word and deed to their own people. They know their future and that of their country is at stake.
Yes, the war is over, and there is a consolidation of the peace. There is a new spirit of positive development. But until the very poor people have the basic health, education, and means of becoming part of the country will never really begin to take off in the way that it should.
There are a great spiritual and temporal needs here, and it's the work of God that has pulled us forward. It's a manifestation of God's presence and power that we've been able to survive these difficult times.
That is exactly what Dorothy Kazel and Jean Donovan would have wanted, and were working toward. Their very real influence, even after death, cannot be underestimated.
You who have gone before us in faith, witnessing to life and speaking of peace, weaving shalom into our lives and dreams. Give us the courage to follow in your footsteps, to walk with you to the cross and to the place of peace until justice comes and the world is at one.
Hey, Brenda, how you doing?
Nice outfit.
What do you got, an interview?
Huh? What?
Oshkosh, now buy one, get one at half price at Kids R Us.
Look, there's Cameron.
Shh, he's creating.
Okay, it's showtime.
Oh, I'll get it.
No. Watch this.
I shot my gun but I couldn't actually.
What do you think of that?
Impressive.
Oshkosh, now buy one, get one at half price. For store near you, call 1-800-KIDS-R-US.
The rewards of Lincoln have been recognized by the most discerning Americans because for the 3rd year in a row, readers of the Robb Report have named Lincoln Town Car one of the 5 best luxury cars in the world, alongside Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Mercedes, and BMW. But only one of them can be yours with this 24-month lease. $499 a month for Lincoln Town Car, one of the 5 best luxury cars in the world.
This is a Sony Car Discman CD player. This is a complete set of tools, which you won't need. To install one of these, all you need is one of these. In certain social situations, the greatest benefit of many Sony portable CD boomboxes is being unattached.
To get these great Sony portable audio products, head down to Best Buy.
At the convenience stores of Speedway, and Gastown, you'll always save on quality gasolines for less, plus a whole lot more. And now we've got a free gift for you with any 8-gallon gasoline fill-up or qualifying Coca-Cola purchase. It's a special limited edition holiday coaster with the famous Coca-Cola Santa. Collect enough free coasters for all your holiday entertaining, because you never know who might stop by.
For the holidays, the convenience stores of Speedway.
It is life in a strange third world country, just recovering from a murderous civil war. It is a workload that never ends, 7 days a week, night and day. It is a job that has carried as many deadly dangers as it provides heavenly rewards.
I hope the brakes are wet, because they're not working well.
And yet there is no shortage of volunteers in Cleveland to come to the missions in El Salvador.
To go to mission is one thing. To be in El Salvador, us, Cleveland, with the commitment that we have, being from North America and all the rest, I think is essential.
Fathers Al Krupp and Bill Thaden have been answering the call in El Salvador's main port city of La Libertad. The Cleveland priests, along with 2 Cleveland nuns, Sisters Catherine McConnell and Bobby Goebel, serve a parish of 75,000 people.
You have to think these mothers want better for their children. These fathers want to give their families food, clothing, and they know they can't, but they accept what they have. It's an acceptance. It's something that's hard for us to understand, but I've seen it.
There is much that is hard to understand in El Salvador. How there can be 9,000 murders a year in a country where such deep religious faith is professed. How there can be such poverty in a land of such magnificent natural beauty.
Poverty is not a good thing. Spiritual poverty is a virtue, but poverty is injustice.
For the people of La Libertad, hunger is only one missed catch of fish away.
For us in La Libertad, the sea is the source of life. We have a market, we have restaurants, we have people who sell, and this is our only source of income.
And so, Gilberto Martinez prepares himself for a 24-hour journey into the treacherous waters of the Pacific Ocean, an all-day and all-night mission to feed and support his family, one that will test both his skill and his faith.
I was born a Catholic. I am a Catholic. I believe in God, the Virgin Mary, and all the saints. This is the texture of my whole life. Having faith in God and living my life in faith. Before the Cleveland team came, my family and I were a bit far from the regular participation in the church. But because of the missionaries' presence over the years, things have changed very much for me and my family.
Since the sea is the source of life for most people here in La Libertad, the Cleveland missionaries have found a way to use the sea to reach into the people's spiritual lives as well. Daily sermons might sound more like biblical parables about boats and fishermen and casting nets.
That's exactly what they do here, the way that they did it in the Bible. I feel like I'm walking through Bible time sometimes when I go down to the sea and see what's going on and see the nets they're using and stuff. So for me, it's like I realize I can't fake anything. I gotta figure out what the life is like that they're living in order to be able to preach to them and not just preach some abstract word.
I'm sure it's not too different than the times of Jesus. A lot of poor people became very close to him. And so we try to adapt our preaching to the needs of the people here, especially the poor.
It was near La Libertad that Jean Donovan and Sister Dorothy Kazel had been working with the poor and oppressed before they were kidnapped and killed on December 2nd, 1980.
At that time, there were a lot of death. There were a lot of suffering. And Dorothy and Jean were there at their side, helping them. Often we talked about, should we leave because of the dangers, or should we stay? And our thought was always to stay, to be with the people, to show our love, to accompany as much as we possibly can.
My message for the people of Cleveland is to follow in the footsteps of Dorothy and Jean as much as you can right there in Cleveland, reaching out to people, bringing happiness and love and joy to as many people as you can. I think that is the work of all of us.
Sacrifices of Faith will continue in a moment.
Before Old Man Winter does a number on you, explore your number one option in minivans. Ford Windstar with front-wheel drive and four-wheel anti-lock brakes to help pull you through. Plus, Windstar is Northeast Ohio's best-selling minivan. And now your Ford dealer offers $1,000 cash on Windstar. $1,000 cash can save you $40 on your monthly payment. So don't let winter do a number on you. Explore your number one option, Windstar, with $1,000 cash at your Northeast Ohio Ford dealer now.
What do I like about Kaiser Permanente? Where do you want me to start? I like my doctor. He's been taking care of me for years. I like that it's pretty simple, too. There's practically no paperwork, and I don't have to worry about my prescription costs with Medicare Plus. I also like that Kaiser works together with the Cleveland Clinic. To me, that says a lot. Hey, nobody ever said that healthcare was supposed to be easy, but I've got to tell you, it sure is at Kaiser.
Hey, buddy, you're going about that all wrong. You gotta try this. The Wall Groomsman Beard and Mustache Trimmer. Only the groomsman has a patented 5-position guide. So you're guaranteed a perfect trim every time. Plus, it's got a powerful motor, pro-quality blades, and it's made in America. Whoa, you really should do something about that sink. The Wall Groomsman Beard and Mustache Trimmer. The right tool for the job.
This is the 96 Accord LX. This is you. The question is how to get you into here with as little of this as possible. The answer is here. Because right now you can get a fully equipped Accord LX for just $239 a month for 24 months. But don't wait too long, because this only lasts till then. And after that, you'll be out of this. So go see your Honda dealer.
We now return to Sacrifices of Faith.
Inside the mother house of the campus of Ursuline College in suburban Cleveland is a treasure house. A collection of accounts of the life and times of Sister Dorothy Kazel and an assortment of the simple things she treasured most.
Those of us who knew Dorothy in 1980 need a way to share her reality with those who didn't know her, but yet they know of her.
And so, Sister Kathleen Cooney, who entered the convent with Dorothy Kazel in 1960, honors each of the many requests for information about Sister Dorothy, questions that still pour in from curious people all over the world.
Dorothy is a signature. She's like a name, a handwriting. She crystallizes what it means to be an American Catholic, an American Christian, someone who's involved with others and whose life is authentic.
Nearby, Sister Cynthia Glavick is compiling the first definitive biography of Dorothy Kazel, a labor of love that began 5 years ago.
I really believe that Dorothy wants her story to be told.
And what a story there is to be found, deep in the pages of the many personal diaries Dorothy Kazel kept for 20 years. A story of exceptional faith and courage, and the same human frailties and struggles we all endure.
She was 41 years old when she died and was at a real transition point, entering midlife, and I think she had come to accept a lot of realities about herself and about life and wanted to share these with other people.
Bless those who suffer from persecution.
And Jean Donovan, the woman with whom Dorothy Kazel will always be remembered, both in El Salvador and in Cleveland, is also very much alive in memory.
Jean was never normal. She was a flamboyant character.
Deborah Miller is one of the reasons Jean Donovan moved to Cleveland. They had met as exchange students in Ireland and became fast friends.
She was a very fun-loving person who would lead anybody to a party. She had a force of personality that when she entered a room, people were just drawn to her.
And so Deborah Miller was not surprised at how the people of El Salvador grew attached to her friend Jean Donovan, or at how committed Donovan eventually became to her mission.
Whatever Jean did, she did 110%. And when she decided on a cause, it was a cause that she embraced entirely. And she really cared about people. And when she took you under her heart, you were there.
Jean Donovan and Sister Dorothy Kazel carried the people of El Salvador in their hearts, even to their deaths 15 years ago. The bond of love and faith they forged with the people is as strong today as ever. A bond Dorothy's personal diary recorded with these words.
The more you love Jesus, and the more open you are with him, the more lovable and beautiful the rest of mankind becomes. I love you more, Jesus, because of all the love I experience in people.
There are other words by which Sister Dorothy Kazel is remembered, words she lived by, the words of St. Augustine, that a Christian should be an alleluia from the top of their head to the bottom of their feet. So tonight here at Ursuline College, in memory of Dorothy Kazel, Rosemary Smith, another missionary to El Salvador, will be presented the Dorothy Kazel Alleluia Award. What Jean Donovan and Dorothy Kazel stood for and died for is recognized far beyond Cleveland and El Salvador. It is likely that they will soon be considered for sainthood in the Catholic Church, and thus the martyrs from Cleveland could also become the saints from Cleveland, to be held up to the world as examples of sacrifice and faith. I'm Dick Russ. Thank you for being with us tonight. Good evening.
Solo quiero mirar los campos, yo solo quiero cantar un